The following production is intended for entertainment purposes only. We are not legal professionals. We do not speak for any government agency, and the opinions expressed here are our own. Relax.
What's up, garbage boys?
What
What
up?
up?
Why you in the shades, Loke?
Cause
Future,
my
Oh, dude,
future's
you had a
just so
headache
bright.
yesterday.
future
That
so
sucks.
bright.
Is it still bugging you?
I think you might have missed when I said my future's just so bright.
Oh,
Um, yeah, no, I got a whatever. I got a little light
Yeah.
sensitivity. I'm feeling all right. It's
You
all
good?
Yeah,
you get migraines?
yeah, I do.
Oof, that's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
had-
It's
they're the
had-
kind where you gotta put a sleep mask on and go into a dark closet and put
Ooh.
earmuffs on.
Yeah.
Mm.
My wife used to get those a lot, and they were debilitating. Like she'd get a migraine, and it's like, well, I guess we're not doing anything for the next 3 days because she's gonna have to recover. And fortunately, she still gets them, but now they don't hurt anymore. She just gets like visual disturbances and auras for a few minutes, and then she can usually move on. I had a, I,
that
I've
actually
never,
sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
If you could just get visual disturbances and auras and no
well,
headache.
yeah, I think
How
the
do you get
aura,
that?
I think the term aura, I think, in as it relates to migraines, more like means there's big black spots in your vision that you can't see anything in. So it's
I
not the
thought those were
not the
ghosts,
no, not the
like
fun kind.
spirits. Gotcha.
Well, maybe I don't know.
The
Yeah,
spooky spirits.
maybe that's an angle the medical establishment could
Maybe
could
that-
explore.
Maybe they haven't fully looked into that option.
Right. What I was going to say was I had a last year. I had what I think was what they call an ocular migraine or an optical migraine. I didn't have a headache. I was sitting on the couch and looking at my phone, and all of a sudden I realized that like I couldn't read anything. Like everything looked like all swimmy,
Uh-huh.
and like there were like little fuzzy lines across it, and I thought, okay, this is it. I'm having a stroke. and and so I started frantically Googling as much as I could since I couldn't see anything. It lasted about 10 minutes and I've never had it again. And I talked to my doctor and she was like, yeah, it sounds like an optical migraine. Sometimes they're caused by, X, Y, and Z, but just let me know if it happens again or if they get worse. And I've never had it since. So, um,
Did
yeah.
Did you at any point think it was a brain tumor?
Uh, no. I just because that didn't really come up in the Dr. Google didn't really suggest that.
Yeah.
It pretty quickly diagnosed me with that particular type of migraine. And I couldn't like smell toast or fresh cut grass or anything, so I didn't think I was stroking out, but
Yeah.
that was the initial thought was, well, this is not right.
I generally I jump pretty quick to brain cancer.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. WebMD, somebody said WebMD is a choose your own adventure where every story ends in cancer.
Yeah.
It's like what was that game where it hits the pegs and
Plinko.
it goes down Plinko, but it all comes down to one spot.
Yeah, just one big slot at the bottom that says cancer.
That game sucks.
That sucks.
I always swear I'm going to be so grateful of my health. Like whenever I'm sick and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I take my health for granted so
Right.
bad. Like whenever I get healthy, I'm never gonna take another moment for granted. Then as soon as I'm healthy, I'm like, la 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 la, fuck that. I don't
Yeah.
like it just immediately exits my mind.
Yeah.
Immediately go back to a feral possum rooting through the dumpster for
Like when you have a sore throat or even just a stuffy nose, and you're like, I miss when I could breathe again or
yeah,
swallow, you know?
yeah, yeah. The before times.
Yeah. So what you been up to, Clayton? You doing much today or you just laying low?
Oh no, man. I'm pretty busy. I working, working all the time. I am kind of in the beginning stages of buying a house, so we're doing that right now. That's always fun. And
Too bad you can't. In fact, I was going to ask you, can you do a referral fee for yourself?
I don't know. Maybe
I'd be able to get 35% back.
35.
Yeah,
Wow.
of the commission.
Yeah,
Shoot, man. We only get 25 out here.
yeah. I think
Referral
I've
fees.
only heard 25.
Well, I mean, it's negotiable, so you can set it whatever you want.
Yeah, that's true.
The kingpin of Kansas real estate here gets 35%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's
No.
cool.
Are
Yeah,
you are you a real estate agent, Clayton? You have your
Yeah, I
license?
am. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
obviously not active. I got
Yeah,
my
yeah.
license. I practiced for a couple years and
Okay.
just stayed there in the practicing phase.
Yeah.
Never really took off.
Never went pro.
No, never went pro. I tried my darndest, but a lot of it is market timing, and I just happened to, try to tee off my real estate career in like the worst market in 30 years.
Yeah.
well, and you were also new to the area. That's got to
Sure.
be one of that's probably the hardest thing is you didn't have an established base. Because when you have an established base, you've got at least 4 or 5 people that are going to support you,
That's
right?
that's
And
the other edge of
that's what you
that
got to have.
double-edged sword of being
Yeah.
able to pick up and move anywhere
Yeah.
is whenever you move just anywhere, you're starting, at least socially, you're starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
When I got my license and was going to was going to like the coaching programs where where new agents go that all new agents go through like a version of this. They call it your sphere of influence. They're like your number one farm that you want to tap into is your sphere of influence.
Yeah.
Who do you know around here that's going to be buying a house? And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know anyone around here." Like, "Oh, Clayton, you know someone." I'm like, "Where do your parents live?" I'm like, "Oh, they're dead." Like, well, where's about your brother? Arkansas? Like, where'd you move here from? Like, okay,
Are
well,
you in witness
normally,
protection or something?
yeah, normally everybody has a sphere of influence, unless you're this loser.
So you're I won't blow up your spot on the pod here, but you looking to still move in that direction that you had talked about before?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I'll be public about that as it gets closer.
Sure.
But yeah, same thing down there. We found a pretty good spot, everything we wanted. We actually got in with a builder, and it's weird. Like I've known these programs existed. I've just never assumed that I would ever take advantage of one.
Mm.
We got in with a builder that bought down points
Yeah.
for their VA folks
Mm-hmm.
and threw in 10K toward closing. I was like,
Nice.
God dang.
Yeah.
So, like
That's
getting it in the fours right now, which is
that's
unheard of.
yeah. That's a really nice benefit. I work for a home builder, and that's one of the things that we've been able to do, um, because we've benefited a lot from the fact that we're in a big housing shortage. But the margin that that's given us has given us a lot of room for incentives, including buying that rate down. And like what the the money guys at my company have said is that anything under 5 is like the magic number. So if you can buy your rate down to like 4.99 or 4.95, that's in this market, that's the trigger that a lot of people are waiting for. Like if you can get them a rate under 5, they're they're ready to go.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, it seems like the average rate's going close to like 7, like 6.8, 6.7, 6.9.
I haven't looked recently, but not too long ago, I had somebody get a 5 3/4. I was thinking 6.5, but I mean, there's so much, there's so much that goes into that,
Yeah.
that, but I think it's going to be a busy spring and summer. I'm looking forward to it. Travis, did you ever look into or get your license out there?
No, I never did. I have thought about it, just because uh, I've thought it would be nice if, even if I wasn't doing like a lot of listings myself, if I had my license, it would let me do things to help Regina, like I could do open
Mm-hmm.
houses and things like that. And then and also I thought, if I ever did decide that I was ready to get out of project management, that's probably something I could transition into, but I haven't taken the time to try to get my license or anything.
Yeah. Well, when you're ready to do that, I'll bet that you could do a lot of cool things. I'll bet you
Yeah.
could find some things to stay busy and make some money with.
Yeah. I like staying busy and making money.
Both of those things.
I like making money more than I like staying busy, but it's tough to do one without the other.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
We had a real good convo going. As I recall, a pretty heavy convo going before Clayton jumped on. I don't remember.
Yeah, it sounded like a real bummer whenever I.
No, not that part. We were kind of touching on God and the devil being the same.
Oh yeah,
kind of touching on some pretty deep blasphemy.
you want to talk about that on here?
Well, I wasn't sure if you had anything that was on your mind, anything that you want to talk about.
What's on your heart, Clayton?
Oh,
you want to share?
Nothing pressing. Where I was kind of gonna hint to earlier, but I ran out of steam. Is fine. Is I feel weirdly blessed right now. Like I feel like, um, yeah, I feel like I'm in an upswing, and yeah, I'm just kind of riding that out. I feel like that's
Yeah.
applying. I don't know, like that's on my spiritual level too, and like just I guess maybe emotional stability right now. I know I need to tweak some things, some behaviors or whatever, but generally I'm doing pretty good and we're all right. Caleb's got some work to do as far as getting his military stuff straight, but yeah, man, we're in the upswing. I feel like we're, I don't know, reaping the rewards of some work. Like in the tarot, it would be like a harvester.
Well, I was just going to ask you if I was going to ask you if you feel like that's consistent with the cards you've been seeing lately. Like, did you see it coming?
Well,
Were you on
it's
the lookout
funny.
for it?
It's all kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, which is cool if it's a good prophecy.
Right.
Um, the Romani women that set me on this path.
Nicely done.
Thank you, thank you. Um, they kind of told us like back in September. They're like, this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, and kind of in the time frames that it's happening in.
Right on.
So, is that something that you do on a regular basis?
What?
Like,
Consult
do
the
you?
cards?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm supposed to like that. Well, that's how you build the best relationship with it is by talking to the cards. Building a strong dialogue.
So, but would that be like, so if you do that daily,
Uh-huh.
like I feel like when you did it with me, it was like, this is your past, this is your present, this is your future. Well, if we do it again tomorrow and it's something different, then like what gives? And then if you do it again tomorrow and it's something different, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're looking at it with some skeptical eyes there, Brother Crafton. What
Well,
you got to remember is like Marcus Aurelius said, you can no man can ever step in the same river twice. because the river is different, and so is the man.
That's right.
Well, hold on there, T-Bone. Before we just agree that that's right. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I'm saying it's a different view. Like now you're looking at it with a different point of view. Like perfect
But
example is
how
YouTube.
would a what's the opposite of accept of skeptic? Would it be accepting?
Yeah.
Believing.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
What's a believe? How would a believing view look at that? If you did it 3 days in a row and got three different, like completely different readings.
Oh, it's looking at it from three different views, or it had three different aspects to show you.
So when you the Marcus Aurelius quote about the man can never step in the same river twice. So you may, and I'm speculating here, so correct me if I'm misinterpreting, but um, you could do three readings on 3 different days, and they could be different because any number of things could have changed your perspective, your circumstances. Uh, Another thing I thought was, does you don't necessarily know the time scale on which things might apply, right? So you might do a reading on day one that says this thing, you might do another reading that tells you to look out for something else, but it's not necessarily that those things are going to happen in the same time period or cancel each other out. It's a different interpretation of things based on a different time. And uh, am I whiffing wildly, or is that on the right track?
No, yeah, it's always gonna be that it's always gonna be a yes and with
Mhm.
this because it's kind of it's it's weird because it's the yin to the yang of like hard science and facts on one side is mysticism and like tarot and astrology kind of stuff on the other. Like there are hard and fast rules, but even then it's like right is always right unless it's left because sometimes it's left. That's kind of the feel over like in that world of tarot it's always going to be ultimately what it means to you. So like if you get three different meanings or three different readings 3 different days in a row, it can be almost like the timeline is shifting. Like I'm going back exactly, let's say 30 years in the past. Well, 30 years in the past from the 19th and then the 20th and then the 21st, I could have had three different emotions, on those 3 different days, and I can be tapping into those different ones, you know what I mean? Like going back that way. Or it can be, like sorry, I keep getting these pop-ups because my window's still or my computer's still waking up. It could be like you're still or you're going back and tapping in like different aspects of your mother, right? Like sometimes you might go back and tap into that warm, loving, feeling of your mom, or you might go back and tap into that scary version where she was screamed and pissed off, or you might go back and find, the sad version. Your mom had all those and more, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and those
Contain
can be
multitudes.
three very different readings of the same exact person.
Mm.
So I, th- I think that probably most people listening to that weren't like on board with tarot would say that, well, that just sounds like you're manipulating it to where it like
Everything
it
that
everything fits. But to that, I would also say I think that that's a lot of that's basically what most religion does is twist the narrative to where it fits like well God said that eventually like yes no or maybe or the reason he didn't answer is because he said not yet, well just like the tarot deck said, just be patient or whatever. It's kind of the same thing. So I think one of the things I was could you say, I mean you could say like if I came to you and asked is this whatever, is this just crap, you could really say yeah, because it can be to me. Like, it doesn't matter to you. It doesn't matter what it is to me, whether it's right or true. If it's true, right? If you are looking at it as though it's true and right, am I understanding you correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter what anybody else believes about it, or that it doesn't make sense to anybody else, because to you, you can have 3 different readings in 3 different days, and it makes sense, and it's good.
Yeah, it's always going to be eventually like what you can get out of it. Like what, if anything, you get out of it. And you got to be willing to like toss aside if I don't get anything out of it. Oh, okay. I didn't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
It's
And if
the opposite of those hard and fast rules like you must accept X because of Y and Z or whatever.
Yeah.
It's almost the opposite of that. Like take this. Does this apply? Yes, take it. However it applies, take it. If not, okay.
and if it doesn't work for your buddy, cool. No problem.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a real healthy way to look at things too. Like, if it's not your thing, cool, don't do it. Like, whatever.
It's a
You might
drastic
say that's
departure.
you might say that's a libertarian view of looking at things, huh?
Oh yeah.
Like, do your thing, bro.
Maybe that's not tarot at all. Maybe that's just the way that I'm presenting it. I don't know. Every actual tarot reader out there is like, what is he saying? No.
That doesn't sound right. I haven't caught up on any of the memes. I'm not even sure. I think I'm like 3 days behind in the.
You know, I get these wild hairs of like topics that I want to talk about, but then whenever we get closer to recording them, I'm always just run out of steam. I'm like, why even bother? Like, why even continue with the deal?
Well, I have it's while we're waiting for Justin to rejoin us, I have a question you might have a perspective on. What are your thoughts on Secretary of Defense saying that intelligence service needs to stand down on any uh, Russian-related cybersecurity uh, activities? Did you read that? I think it might have just happened today.
No, I didn't read that. I don't know, but there's been a few different talks or a few different, I guess, examples of this in the talking heads that I listen to that like the departments that a lot of these kind of radical heads have just gotten a hold of,
Hmm.
that the actual staff in these are like not feeling safe and are letting it known. Like it's almost a hostile work environment in
Yeah,
a lot of these places.
yeah.
And yeah, I've heard about that from the talking heads on these podcasts, talking about like Pete Hegseth and not RFK as much, but like more of kind of like deep underlinings with the Department of Health with when it relates to RFK, like he's kind of knocking on some foundational
Hmm.
aspects of how their operations.
Hmm.
But yeah, and as far as like the Department of Justice, like there's kind of very loud, outspoken objections to this leadership I've heard.
Yeah, that seems to be. Um, I've heard a lot of that as well. Just that there's a deep sense of foreboding with a lot of
Did
the rank and file in a lot of these departments.
did you hear about that chat group that Tulsi Gabbard talked about?
I did, yeah. Um, I haven't researched it uh,
Me
to
neither. I've just heard people talk
Uh,
about it.
I haven't
yeah.
heard anything about it.
So the story was, or the way it was originally reported was 100. I don't know if it was specifically like NSA or 100 people who worked as part of the intelligence security apparatus were fired for what was what was originally stated as like, I can't remember the exact phrase they used, but
Pornographic lewd.
yeah, the implication was that they were having, you know, X-rated conversations, sexually explicit conversations on official channels. Um, and as I started reading into that, because I was like, well, what are we talking about here? Um, and I had heard that a lot of what that was really just sort of like almost medical discussions as it relates to like transgender people and gender affirming care and things like that. Um, not that it was, you know, people sharing like, you know, X-rated pictures or having, you know, sexting with each other at work as much as just kind of talking about transgender issues that I guess have been characterized in that way by however it got up to Tulsi Gabbard. I can't imagine she was like reviewing logs or something. Um, Somehow this got bubbled up to the top. So I'm not really I'm not really sure. It feels like maybe there's more to the story, but I'm not, you know, I don't really know who's got the true skinny on it.
Yeah, it's weird. So I've heard basically that what you just said, but I don't know the like you said, I don't think they're trying to get each other off in these chat groups. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah,
think like
yeah.
they're trying to get each other to orgasm. Like I don't think that was the point of these groups. But if there's images of breast and genitalia, like I wouldn't let a minor look at it. I would call that pornographic. And I don't think it should have been done on business time.
What was the
Yeah.
purpose of, like, what was the conversation? Why were they having the conversation?
Well, I think it was, and again, this is my limited understanding of the situation, but what I read it as what was people almost like a support group, right? So like uh, transgender LGBTQ people talking with each other about things that are relevant to them, right? Like what
As
they're
NSA employees,
As
uh,
NSA
as
and
NSA,
intelligence employees, yeah.
yeah. So it would be sort of like, you know, it would be like if the three of us all worked at the same company and we had a Teams chat going and we were talking about, um, you know, some medical procedure, right? Like I'm thinking about getting a vasectomy or something, right? To me, that was how I perceived it, except obviously not a vasectomy. It's more like, you know, uh, you know, they're talking about, you know, going through transitional surgery, or maybe they're talking about starting hormones or stopping hormones or something. So it seemed like it was non-sexual in the sense that it wasn't meant to titillate. Nobody was trying to be lewd, but they were using an official channel to talk about something that probably isn't directly related to their role as you know, as NSA or intelligence members. So I don't necessarily disagree that they may have violated the letter of the law in terms of the acceptable use of corporate systems. It would be interesting to do an audit and see how many others had done the same thing and who they decided to go after.
For sure.
Right. And I have a suspicion of why, but you
For
know,
sure.
that's, you know what I mean.
There's, you know, there's always an example of this. It seems like conveniently, at least once a week, or maybe even more often, where like it seems like the other side gets like a gimme just falls into their lap. And
Right.
it's like a
It's a real
dog that
cell
has a
phone.
bone and just shakes the hell out of it. Like, and
Yeah.
I got this one. And we're like, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Okay, yeah, you're right. They it should not have been there.
Yeah.
I get this, but
Well,
I don't know if this needs to be front page or whatever.
yeah, I think that's what's frustrating about it is, at least from, you know, you know, from my position here on in the, you know, on the couch, it's
Mhm.
like it seems so transparent that, like you said, maybe this was a cell phone or an own goal. It was like, okay, this is a gimme. Of course they're going to take it and they're going to say, see what we found? We told
Uh,
you. We told you. Uh, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm sure there's bigger fish to fry. And if we dig a little deeper, there's probably lots of people we could fire if that's really what we want to do. But when you're waging the culture war in a new administration, you're going to go for the red meat, and that's red meat for the base right now.
well,
Um,
it's funny. There's even a version of that, like in the conspiracy theorists, like the channels and the podcast that I listen to. They're talking about how like in all this revealing and all these declassifications, they're talking about shit that has been declassified since the 90s. But
right.
it's kind of like it's like, well, they are bringing attention. Like they're like, we have this thing to present. There's this thing called the Warren Commission that investigated JFK's. We're like, you mean in 1960? Yeah, we known about this.
Yeah.
But at least now they're talking about like, hey, the CIA director that he fired was in charge of the Warren Commission. That's weird, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a give and take. Yeah, like I said, even in the conspiracy world, the big reveals are actually not that big.
Yeah. Uh, they were everybody's been talking about the Epstein files, right? And they had I don't know, they had some event at the White House where they brought in a bunch of influencers and they all walked out with these binders that said Epstein files. And I think like everything was redacted except for some names. So like all you have is a name and then like 8 pages of just black marker. Okay, what I mean,
Man,
what does that tell us?
it's the actions. Unfortunately, it's the actions that are just gonna always breed more and more doubt.
Oh yeah, of course.
Why
Re-
would they? What's the point of even coming out with anything other than a full list? Like, why would that? Why would you even say we've got it or we're bringing it or like it doesn't do you any good to say we've got something and then present that.
Well, I
Well,
can
here
tell you the procedural reason. Like, I can tell you why a bureaucrat would say that they can't present it, because I've learned it's the same reason that they've applied to a lot of this JFK stuff, is that there's social security numbers and telephone numbers and personal identification that's classified in here, and that's a lot of the redacted information is personal identification, not some groundbreaking, Lee Harvey Oswald did it. A lot of it's just social security numbers and personal identification. Um, so like I've heard that recently with the JFK stuff. So I know exactly they're gonna apply that to any classified big list. Like with the
mhm.
Epstein, there's gonna be a lot of personal identification markers in there, and it's gonna go through court of what they can and or some sort of procedural overview of what they can and can't release.
Yeah, but I don't care when they so once a judge releases that they can disclose this date in 1982, like don't tell me when you're about to release that. Tell me when you're about to release the complete log. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't do the media source any good to say that
Uh,
we've got something if all it is a date or a phone number.
Well, it depends on it depends on what your end game is and what you plan to do with that information, right? So let's say you get a binder and most of it's blacked out, but you see Bill Gates's name come up, right? So you see Bill Gates's name in this documentation, and there's no details, but there are people out there who don't need details in order to make up their mind. So then the new narrative becomes, well, Bill Gates's name is scattered throughout the Epstein files. And so people are going to draw their own conclusions, right? They're going to take that to mean Bill Gates was at Epstein's island every weekend and he was doing things he shouldn't have done with underage girls. Um, the reality could be much more innocuous because Epstein was a financier who worked with a lot of tech companies. He worked with a lot of like biomedical stuff, and not everybody who flew on Epstein's plane is a pedophile, right? Or not everybody who was at the same parties with him is a pedophile. But you don't have to have those details. All you need to see is Bill Gates's name in any document that uh, was related to Epstein, and you can create that narrative that well, there's suspicion that Bill and maybe Bill Gates isn't a great example, because if you told me that he was in the list of people doing dirty deeds on that island, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't have any great affection for Bill Gates, but I just think that there's a lot of people whose names are, and it's same thing with Diddy, right?
Yeah.
When you're a mogul and you're doing business with a lot of people, if 1% of those people were involved in your parties, it doesn't matter, because the other 99%, they're going to show up in whatever documentation that's connected to you, are going to be under that cloud of suspicion.
Yeah. Clayton, I feel like you were really wanting to say something there for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, and I lost it. No, well, I was just gonna what adds weight to it, or at least what adds a lot of suspicion, is like you said, Bill Gates could be on this list, and it could just be that he happened to hitch a ride on there, like, and it could be for a lot of harmless reasons.
Yeah.
But the he's he's on the same list that Bill Clinton was, and Bill Clinton, Epstein had a portrait of Bill Clinton painted in woman's clothes in his mansion.
It doesn't surprise me. I
Yeah,
mean,
and there's I mean there's just not a lot of great accusations of Bill Clinton with these women, and like there's pictures of him getting these massages.
oh yeah. I mean, believe me, uh, I am circumspect enough to look back and say Clinton was not the worst president we've ever had. The economy was pretty good. Is
Sure.
he? But yeah, I 100% believe when all this stuff is revealed, he probably had his own wing of Epstein's Island.
Yeah,
I, I'm
it reminds me of separating the art from the artist conversation that we were having before.
yeah, yeah, that's a tough
But
one.
but if you've got, I mean, if you've got, if you're that guy, if you're Epstein and you're bringing people onto your island for even legitimate work, and from what I understand, you couldn't be on the island without thinking there's something awry, like there's something happening that shouldn't be happening. I don't know if that's true or not, but if if he sends his plane out to get you and brings you to do whatever, and you decide, maybe you're done, maybe you decide, well, hey, I don't want to be here, like there, you can't help the fact that you happen to ride in his car or you happen to ride in
Yeah.
his plane, so you're going to be on the log,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Uh,
so just because you release, oh sweet, he did this work with this guy,
But what would you be doing right now if you were in that situation?
and I was there because I worked on his computer.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd be producing logs and
exactly.
notes
I'd be
and
coming
bills, and
forward, be like, "Excuse me, you're gonna
you
find
might
my
find
name
me.
on this
Yeah.
log, but
yeah,
I have a reason why."
Yeah, but you know that if you're worth $100 million, you consult your attorney, and your attorney says
yeah.
we don't
Don't
say
say a damn
anything.
thing. That's
Well,
right.
I say that because RFK Jr. did that. He came out ahead of it and said, "Hey, you're gonna find my name on the log, but there's a reason." He says that he got a ride from, I think, Colorado to Washington D.C. or something like that, and they were gonna ride his wife's plane, his ex-wife's plane, but it was down for maintenance, and Epstein was there, and Giselle and his ex-wife were friends, so they offered her a ride and they took it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I do think I do think even though that you might go against the advice of your attorney, that does tend to make me give it some credence when somebody says, "Hey, just FYI, you're
Yep.
gonna see my name. I want to explain to you exactly why my name was on there." And it's a lot easier to do when it was one time versus when it was 43 times,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I also think it's like there's almost an economy that we can't relate to though, right? Because we're not private jet people. So
Right.
the idea of just catching a ride on Epstein's jet or Taylor Swift's jet or whoever, right? Because there's at that level of wealth, right? These people who fly exclusively private, it really is just sort of like, hey, can you give me a ride? Oh, you're
Yeah.
going from Martha's Vineyard to
Yeah.
Napa. Can I catch a ride? Like the plane's going anyway, right? So I think that
Yeah,
that
it's almost
happen.
like a shared economy. Like they
Yeah,
don't
right.
even think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot. But yeah, boy, I
That's
if
how it was
I
portrayed in Gossip Girl when I watched it.
How bad would it suck to have like gone to either scenario? Let's just say a Diddy party because that's a little bit easier to explain. Somebody invites you and you show up and you're like, no, I'm leaving, right? But your name is still on the list.
you still
So
signed in.
as they start to release these things, like I don't know that being smart makes you any more honest. It doesn't make you any better. You were still there,
Yeah.
right? You're just getting in front of it. You're just getting ahead of it. And if you broke into, let's say that you broke into a garage and you cut your hand breaking the glass, right? Blood everywhere. You might want to say, hey guys, listen, you're going to find my DNA, but here's why you're going to find my DNA, right? But that doesn't mean that you didn't break into the garage. That doesn't mean that you're not a
Right.
bad guy. That
Right.
you're just smart, right? Because it makes you look less guilty, right?
Yeah, but when it comes out later, when later on the list comes out and there's all these other people, if they didn't come out and say anything, I'm going to say, "Hey, why? I want to know why." I'm going to be more
Yeah,
suspicious of them if they didn't come out and say something.
yeah.
Maybe
I just
I'm
can't.
putting unfair expectations on folks.
I just can't imagine the stress, the anxiety they must be going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, across the board, whether it's in Washington D.C., it's a politician that's about to get found out, or it's a celebrity that is about to get found out, or it's whatever. Uh, I'm just not important enough to get found out. Like, whatever. Here's
Well, you have to assume because it automatically gives weight to the rumors that 50 Cent and, folks like him, and like I think about that book, Confessions of a Video Vixen, where it was like a tell-all book about that inside. She mentioned, and that was decades ago, mentioned the P. Diddy parties. You you have to, it automatically gives weight to what they said. And so since we don't know what happened, this guy gets arrested for allegedly I think the official charges are along the lines of like sex trafficking and
Mhm.
uh,
Kidnapping.
yeah, kidnapping and along the lines of rape or
Mhm.
liberties along those lines. You have to assume that gives credence to what 50 Cent said, like, oh, everybody's in there and it's a freak off and they're all touching each other, and it's all Sodom and Gomorrah. Because you don't know what actually happened. So whenever Jay-Z's real quiet now and he's not saying anything, you're like, JC, why are you so dang quiet?
Dude, the memes have been so choice around Jay-Z this week because I don't know where this information came from, but like the word on the digital street is that when the names really start coming out, Jay's going to be at the top of the list.
For sure.
And so all of these, like there's one where he's like, I don't know, it's a music video or something, and he's standing behind somebody and he's just got like this look on his face. Or there's one where the one with him on his jet ski when he's just like driving away on his jet ski. Every yeah, everybody's talking about Jay's sweating right now.
I think I might have sent it to our group. This this like video is it says never forget the time Kanye launched Kim off the back of a jet ski.
Yeah.
It just shows some all you see, because you can't see their face, is just some black dude with some tan girl behind him, but Compass watches off the
You,
nose end of
you, you,
someone else's jet ski.
you see a Brazilian butt lift hurtling through the air in the
Yeah,
opposite
she just
direction.
does a perfect rainbow arch off the back of this thing and bounces off the sand.
Yeah. Uh, I think I might have said this before, but when we were talking about the Diddy parties, uh, Denzel Washington has a quote, or somebody said that Denzel always tells the young actors in Hollywood, leave 20 minutes before the devil gets there. And like that was just his general advice. And I'm assuming it applied to things like Diddy parties, probably lots of Hollywood parties where, you go early, you make an appearance, and you get out of there before the stuff that you don't want to be around for starts. That's got to be, and I mean, I love Hollywood. I'm just not an anti-Hollywood rant here, but I just I feel like that's got to be so prevalent.
Yeah. Well, there's always some level of truth in these movies like Eyes Wide Shut, and these movies that it seems like they kind of rub your face in it a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
And I know that a lot of it is over exaggerated. You gotta assume that most of it is, and I know that from like military movies, because most military movies, if if they are based in any form of reality, is like they got the uniform somewhat right and they got the vocabulary somewhat right, but
yeah,
besides that, like you're extending a lot of generosity. As a service member watching it, you're like, okay, sure. They
yeah,
don't talk like that. They don't walk like that. That's not how they think. That's not, but okay, I'll go along with this. I'll press believe.
yeah,
Um, so I know that like like this exaggerated, but even in those military movies, there is some element of truth in
yeah,
these military movies, and I almost like with these eyes wide shut, or something, like I said, these movies where they just rub your face in the kind of hidden elite, or at least their view
yeah,
as elitist or whatever. Like there's something there.
yeah.
I think that there's a level though, that elite status where it's a different world. Like things,
Oh, sure.
laws and
Yeah.
like regular rules just don't apply. And I think that's probably a lot of those parties probably come from that environment.
Yeah, I think that I mean, we people talk a lot about uh, having a two-tiered justice system, or maybe it's even more than two tiers, or even an entirely different justice system for the ultra rich and people who can buy the best attorneys and who can make the right donations. And uh, there's like a whole calculus that I think is considered. Um, when people above a certain income level commit crimes, right? About whether or not, is it worth the publicity to go after them? What happens if we lose? Like, there's all these calculations that would not get made. Well, maybe they get made at the opposite end of the spectrum, right? If a district attorney is like, okay, we're not going to bring this to court because it's too small, or I'm not interested in spending resources on, this level of criminal activity. So it's like that happens at way on the extreme of one end, and then way on the extreme on the other end, and then there's that place in the middle where most of us fall, where if you run afoul of the law, you're probably going to catch a case, maybe do some time, um, but it's not applied equally for sure. I don't think.
Hmm.
Justin, did I ever tell you about that time? If Mo was on here, he could maybe extend a little bit more details than me. That time we partied with a Saudi prince in Bahrain.
That sounds like a story.
No, but that does sound like a good time.
He is the type of person, he was definitely slumming it with the Americans that were there, I think, because he knew, well, he went to this part of Bahrain called American Alley. Like he went there to hang out with Americans, probably specifically American service members. But he was part of this social class that would have been like in these, like if there are these, hidden mask parties where, all sort of Sodom and Gomorrah type stuff happens, he would have been like at there. He's like, oh yes, that happens in Friday in my in my hometown.
That's a Tuesday night for me, son.
Yeah, we were at this bar. I want to say it was Davy Crockett's. Yeah, there's this bar Davy Crockett's in Bahrain we were at, and there's this big stage, or kind of like a stage bar that goes all around. They serve drinks, and it's made where there could easily be dancers on the bar, on the bar that goes around. Well, we show up and kind of just come in, and already this big commotion that's happening. There's this uh, there's this guy. He's not dressed in a robe, but he has his hat on, and he's this little dude, and he's up on the bar. He's up on the bar dancing like, hey, 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 shot for you, and there's girls all around him. He has these big giant dudes around him in real nice suits. So we're like, okay, well, that's going on over there. Let's just stay over there, or let's stay over here. He calls us over. We end up, he's like, hey, Americans, you come over here. We get over there, shots. Well, he's like, hey, where are you from? Kansas, Tennessee, Kentucky? Oh, nice, nice, nice. We're like, where are you from? He's like, don't worry about where I'm from. And he's very elusive. Well, we end up buying him shots, or trying to buy him shots. He's like, no, you cannot buy for me. Well, we give him shots. Whenever we hand him a shot, he hands it to one of the big guys, and the big guy like basically tosses it behind him. He's like, yeah, whatever, here's your shot glass. Uh, as the night goes on, he's like, I'm a prince. We're like, get the fuck out of here. And like at this point, we're slapping him on the back. We're all pie-eyed. We got our arms around him.
Are you telling him that you love him?
Or yeah, I mean,
I would die for you, bro.
Did he buy you all Lamborghinis at the end? Like, I feel like you could have worked that a little
no, but he has this gold iPhone, and
bit.
this was back before the iPhone X. This was in 2013. Yeah, this is 2013. He has this gold iPhone, and he's going through and showing us pictures of like lions and tigers,
Holy
and we're
shit.
like, we're assuming, we think that he's lying about being a prince, but we're assuming there's a lot of folks with a lot of money in the Middle East, and especially around Bahrain. Bahrain's like the weekend getaway for the rich folks from Saudi Arabia. So you always see a lot of rich Saudis in Bahrain on the weekends.
Mm.
And so we're like, this guy's maybe oil money, maybe oil family, something like that. Well, eventually, as he's going through showing us pictures of his cars, there's this family picture where he gets to, and it's him and like 16 brothers and sisters. And we're like, hold up, go back to that. They're on this palace steps. They have these gold pillars and these golden steps that they're on, and they're all wearing these black robes with the golden edges. We're like, this motherfucker's a prince. And we're like,
Oh, wow.
oh shit. He's like, yes, I told you, I am a royal prince. We're like, oh my god.
Holy cow.
But how? So, if it's kind of oil money, right? Or generally, that's
And
that's the idea.
royal family is an oil family over there. That's their
Like,
only.
it seems like every male in Saudi Arabia is a prince, right? Or there's at least a lot of Saudi princes, right?
I don't know. It might be a lot of, yeah, there are a ton of Saudi princes, but there's a lot of it is association by marriage,
Mm.
and I think any male in the royal family is gonna somehow call themselves a prince. I think
Okay.
that's how it's
Oh,
working.
that's just okay. But so how is everybody rich?
Oil. It's the house of Sod. Because that whole peninsula was just Arabia, like back before World War One, World War Two. That whole peninsula was just Arabia. Well, when the United Kingdom was partitioning out the Middle East, the House of Saud claimed this giant portion of Arabia, and that was Saudi Arabia, and they were an oil family.
Huh. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
Uh, s- Speaking of insane amounts of money, uh, Cat Williams said something on Theo Vaughn's podcast a few weeks ago that I thought was pretty profound, and I wasn't really expecting it. Um, but they were talking about uh, at a high level. Um, Theo Vaughn said something like, I'm not ready to die yet. I still got stuff I want to do. And Cat Cat Williams said, that's what makes life beautiful is having things to look forward to. And he said that's why so many of these billionaires seem so miserable because they live an existence where there's nothing that's off limits to them. There's nothing that they have nothing to look forward to because they experience everything they want with no waiting. And
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting, right? Like, you and I can talk about, things we're saving for or a job we want to get or a car we want to buy or a vacation we're going to take. And there's an anticipation of that and there's like the the reward of waiting for something or the reward of working for something, working towards something. When you take that whole process out of it and life basically just becomes a vending machine for everything you could ever want, like that burns out those pleasure receptors in your brain pretty quickly.
I don't often defend celebrities or their ridiculous behavior, but I do think that like if you're somebody like who Shia LaBeouf, right?
Hmm.
Child actor.
Hmm.
I love his movies. He seems like a great dude, but he's done some like he's had some run-ins where he's said and done some pretty horrible things.
Hmm.
But think about, or maybe Miley Cyrus is a better example. Like, how are you supposed to grow up in that environment where nothing's off limits? You can do whatever you want
Yeah.
and have any kind of a normal outlook on life or society or how you should behave. Like, there's no way that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a cliche with the child stars, right? Like you can almost set your watch by or your calendar by it. Um, and I think specifically for that reason, when you live your formative development years in an environment where nobody will tell you no, um, then you get Justin Bieber, right? He went through it for a while and maybe he straightened up and got himself a wife and a baby or whatever, and he's grown up some, but there was a period of time. I mean, imagine being 17 years old and having more money than you could ever possibly spend, and nobody willing to tell you that's not a good idea because they don't want
Yeah.
to lose their job.
Think how bored you would be.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's why I tell my kids no all the time.
That's right. That's good.
I'm
It's
I'm
good
trying to
parenting.
make them I'm trying to make them better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good parenting.
that Hollywood that Hollywood kid, like they're getting everything so they don't have to work for it. That's where it feel like it ties in. They don't have to get it, or they're getting everything so they don't appreciate it. I feel like there's a weird, almost like maybe it's a self-judgment, but a weird view toward social assistance, like like disability from the VA or medical retirement for first responders. I don't know. Yeah, because those are the ones that I deal with for self-criticism. But like you're getting something and you're not I like the fear is like, oh, you're not appreciating this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think typically when you hear the argument against, um, say things like food stamps or welfare or whatever,
Yeah.
the the place that that argument comes from is again kind of rooted in American rugged individualism and the idea that everybody needs to get there under their own steam and you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and so nobody should be given anything. Everybody should have to work for what they get. Um, and that's fine. Like you can, a person can make that argument. I think the reality of the world that we live in, where most people, and I don't have the statistics, but most people I think who are on SNAP assistance are also working,
Yeah.
right? Maybe two or three jobs, right? You work at Walmart, I mean, a lot of people who work at Walmart get SNAP assistance because Walmart doesn't pay them enough. Um, so I think it's a little bit it's different because the scale is so much different, right? Like I would so if I was on food stamps and I got $10,000 a month in food stamps, I could see how yes, I might get to a point where I'm just accustomed to that, and so I'm buying prime rib and fillets every week, and that doesn't seem like a good use of government money. The reality is food stamps for most people are $250 a month or something like that. I mean, it's not a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
It's and with grocery prices the way they are now, it definitely doesn't go very far. So, like I kind of understand the psychology behind the criticism, but I don't think it holds up very well in real life.
Yeah. The
I
only
think
Oh, go
I
ahead.
think I think one of the problems is that when I worked at Quick Trip, I used to I could generally tell, I could generally guess pretty easily by what was placed on the counter if it was going to be a debit card or an EBT card.
Hmm.
And it was based off the like normal a normal consumer wouldn't buy their groceries at Quick Trip because you
Hmm.
know that you're not going to pay 6.49 for a gallon of milk.
Right.
You would pay 2.39 at Walmart down the street.
Hmm.
So I used to think that, oh, there's wasted money. I think the truth is that there's a lot of people that just don't understand where to buy groceries and how to buy, like how to smartly use the money. Uh,
Yep.
and that you don't necessarily like maybe buy this type of meat or whatever. So, and the other thing is there's a reason why people need assistance. And if you
Hmm.
just give them money, they still need assistance. Maybe if there's more, and I'm sure there probably is, reinventing the wheel. But I wonder if there could be more of an effort to get them to a place where they don't need assistance.
So there's I, I think a couple things you said there. I definitely think part of it could be lack of financial understanding or just the sense that if you buy your milk at Quick Trip, it's going to cost you twice as much as it's going to cost you at Walmart or Aldi. So some of it may be that they don't understand that. Other part of that, and this is another kind of interesting economy that I have noticed is that among people who are lower income, there's a lot of dependency on other people to help them do things that you and I don't think about. Meaning, if they don't have a car and they got to go to work, they're dependent on their neighbor or their friend or somebody to give them a ride to work.
Yeah.
they're dependent on somebody to take, hey, can you run me down to Quick Trip so I can get a pack of cigarettes and some milk for the baby? So they're not necessarily thinking about the most uh, the most efficient or even the most economic solution. They're thinking a lot of times in terms of the next 12 to 24 hours, and they don't know when they're going to get to Kroger, but but their buddy's going to Quick Trip and he can give them a ride. You know what I mean? Like some of it is just the opportunities that they have, and and you know, I think of opportunities a little bit differently because I have food in my refrigerator and I know where my next paycheck's coming from, so I can plan things out a little bit. When you're living hand to mouth and you don't know what you're going to eat tomorrow, but but you got $5 today. I think that the type of financial intelligence that most of us operate with, I don't think is at the top of the priority list for a lot of folks.